Hello, travelers, and welcome back to the Temple of Kung Fu. As always, I am your host, the Shaolin Kid. Tonight's tale is King Boxer, the Five Fingers of Death. Ah! So today, if you couldn't tell, we're watching a Shaw Brothers movie, King Boxer, The Five Fingers of Death, from 1972, which was released in North America in 1973, and actually, this movie really started up the North American Kung Fu craze, where 30 Kung Fu movies came out in 1973. 30 in North America alone. If there were that many Kung Fu movies coming out this year, every single Ticket Tuesday would be a Kung Fu, like Temple of Kung Fu edition. But I really like this movie, and if you like Kung Fu movies, if you like Shaw Brothers, which if you like Kung Fu movies, you probably should like Shaw Brothers, definitely pick this one up. I highly recommend it. I just thought it was really enjoyable. Since it's Dragon Dynasty, if you couldn't see on the cover, which are a really good distributor, they have really high quality. And by the way, this isn't sponsored by Dragon Dynasty. I'm just really complimenting how they actually have a good transfer of these films onto DVD format. They do have Blu-rays, but we mostly own the DVDs. The movie is called, as I said, King Boxer, and the movie centers around the main character was his name, Ji Hao, yeah. The main character, Ji Hao, or something else, I think that was his name. He was, like, originally a pupil for this one teacher, but then he moved away to go to another, much higher school, where he worked there in the kitchen for a little bit, and then he impressed the teacher, and then he became his highest-ranking pupil, where it made him the biggest target by a rivaling school, where they tried to kill him many times, and eventually he learned the Iron Fist technique, which actually I really liked. I really liked the way he did that. And, like, it was actually pretty bloody, which was a nice change of pace. There was a lot of blood fountains and stuff like that. A lot of, like, chops on people's heads like they're axes. Like, if you karate chop someone in the head in the movie, which happens many times, it's like they have an axe to the forehead. Like, it's fucking great. It's very violent, especially for Kung Fu movies at the time. Unless you've watched, like, Shaw Brothers usually are pretty violent, which I appreciate, because I like the more violent Kung Fu movies. But the movie has a really simple plot. It's like a revenge story. And obviously there are Japanese guys who are the bad guys, because it's a Hong Kong Chinese movie, because Chinese hate them Japanese. Surprise! Invaded them. But anyway, they still do for some reason. And it just also, I think, is a good example of why I love Kung Fu movies so much. It's got, like, literally everything. It's got the great ridiculous stuff. It's got great fight scenes. It can be pretty funny. Unintentionally, but it can be pretty funny. I was actually pretty invested, even if how silly that sounds. I was invested in, like, a, 50-year-old movie? Is it 50 years old? Is it 40? 50. Like a 50-year-old, early 70s Kung Fu flick. I was pretty invested in it. I really did like it. I don't have much to say about this movie, and to be honest, I don't want to spoil most of it. Because if you're interested, if you've been interested in what I've been saying about the movie, just go find a copy and watch it. Because it's really, really enjoyable. Because it's so, like, violent, too. Like it may seem kind of tame now, but back then, they said in, like, an interview with some critics, like, back then, it was it was a lot for back then, especially the 70s with all the blood and the fountains. Because at one point, the main character at the end of the movie, he like turned a guy behind and he punched him in the back, and he just spit out like a fountain of blood. It was great. It was, and they like, there's 2 instances in the movie where they poke people's eyes out, and it's great. And they actually look like the gore actually looks pretty good. They cut off someone's head at one point. You can't have a kung fu movie with swords without cutting someone's head off. It's always great. And when you think the movie's over and he's won the tournament, shank goes the teacher. The enemy rival teacher stabs the other teacher and he kills him. And then it's a new story of revenge. And then they kill that guy, or he kills himself. And then the evil Japanese mercenary goes and tries to finish what he started and kill the main character. He fucking gets launched into bricks and then dies. It's pretty good. And then, there's no freeze frame ending, though. No freeze frame ending, unfortunately.
Does that mean no freeze frame ending on this edition of...
I'm sorry, guys. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break the news to you, but there's no freeze frame ending. I know. It's devastating. Unfortunately, there will be no freeze frame ending at the end of this video. You know, there were villains you wanted to see taken down. Like, the movie was well written in the fact that you were rooting for the good guy. You know, and you wanted to see the bad guy get taken down. That's the thing that I always love, and I think is really well done with Kung Fu films, is that they write good villains and good heroes. You know, the heroes you always want to see triumph, because they're so good. They're good, and the bad guys are so cartoonishly evil that it works. You know what I mean? Like, they're so cartoonishly evil that it works. Sometimes it doesn't work with cartoonishly evil villains. Sometimes you laugh at them, but this time you're like, yeah, fuck you, I want to see you die. Right? Kind of that kind of thing. But, yeah. I just think, this is a really good example of if like you're getting into Shaw Brothers, you could, I think if you wanted to start out in Shaw Brothers, you should start with this movie. This is where I think you should start. But anyway, I'm going to get to my rating, and I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. I really liked it. I thought it was really great, really bloody, fantastic. Loved it. So, guys, thank you for visiting the Temple of Kung Fu. As always, I've been your host, the Shaolin Kid. And Buddha be praised. No freeze frame ending, guys, sorry. Oh, damn it! I wish this movie had a freeze frame ending!
Ah, fuck.
You fucking messed the shot up, you bitch!
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those cats were fast as lightning.
Anyway.